What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. So we are continuing on the S13 today. Basically in the last video we got it rolling, so we got all the suspension in, we got all the knuckles, the LCAs, etc. We got everything bolted back up, so the car now rolls and is basically set up and ready to go. The next step, we need to tidy up the engine bay a little bit, and then we can get the driveline into the S13. Mind the wind guys, you know we do have some pretty stormy ass conditions out here, so hopefully the little wind muffs do their job. This is the motor, the driveline as it sits. We did end up selling the high mount turbo setup, so that's all gone. Oil lines, water lines, dump pipe, intake pipe, manifold gate and turbo all sold, because I want to use this genuine low mount Silk Road manifold. So that accompanied with the TDO 518G should be a nice responsive setup. It should give us that awesome traditional sort of Japanese SR20 note, which I'm really excited for. So there is just a couple of things I want to do on this engine bay before we get stuck into putting the motor in. We've got to remove the passenger side engine mount. We've got to remove some of the factory emission stuff. We've still got some of the carbon canister stuff I want to remove. Bash bars obviously got to come off so that way the motor can slide in nicely. We've got to finish stripping out the automatic harness. While we're there and the engine is out, I want to put this steering rack spacer in, because that's just a job that's going to be a lot easier while the engine is out. Same with these solid GK Tech steering rack pushers, so that's another job I want to do while the engine's out. I think Josh said he was going to come around today and give us a hand, so I'll get stuck into all this now, and then hopefully by the time he rocks up we'll be ready to put the motor in, because that's always a lot easier with two people.
Aside from my soul, there goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. There goes a sight from my soul. I think a falling angel just walked by. I think a falling angel just walked by. I think a falling angel just walked by.
We just finished getting the steering rack bush in. That was a lot more difficult than I originally imagined. You know, those bolts were really tight. They didn't really want to come loose. And then because everything was such a mess inside the car, we couldn't actually pull the steering column out and do it the way I usually do it. So it was just really tedious exercise. Because the GK Tech spacer isn't exactly cast to the same size, you have to push and reuse all the little sleeves. So that was another little annoying thing. The one on the 180, you don't have to do that. The bolts just line straight up into it. But regardless, it's done. It is a huge help. It just gives so much more feedback through the steering wheel. So that's a big thing. Now, next we need to move on to the rack spacers. These are GK Tech solid spacers. I just bought them. There was no special reason why I got them. I ended up buying a heap of things from GK Tech, so it's just easier to slap another thing onto the list and get them sent out. They do move the rack forward just a little bit, which is probably perfect. You know, it might help a little bit with binding, but we're not moving this rack forward, so these are just solid. I probably prefer to use a polyurethane, but they don't do it, so it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, these are going to help. They're going to secure the rack in place.
Wanna hit the road and let's go then. Let's just go and see the world and just show them what it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden. They can't ever break us down, cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow, cause we're golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden. They can't ever break us down, cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow, cause we're golden. Got the devil in your eyes.
We just got the steering rack bushers in, that was actually quite difficult. Just having to rotate them all, and you know, they never go in properly. I don't know why. Every car I've ever done it on, always one bolt was just that little bit crooked. Not sure, but regardless, that's another job ticked off the list. Now that's the last thing we need to do before we can put the motor in. So it's time to get the engine crane out and hook the driveline up to the engine crane, and then we can get it into the car. I'm pretty sure Josh is now on the way, so he'll be able to give me a hand, because two hands always do help when you're putting a motor and gearbox in. So let's get the motor back into the car. Fairly certain the camera died. I have just changed the battery. The motor is now in the car. We did struggle a little bit. I don't know why. The SRs, they just never want to go in perfectly straight. I think it's because I just run seat belts around the manifolds and it doesn't quite level it out. So the engine is now bolted up. The gearbox is done up. It's all solid in place. The engine mounts are all tightened. Let's just have a quick look over the car and a couple of the issues we're going to face getting this thing running and getting it ready to go to the track. Power steering is now all bolted up. Turbo has been ordered. We just got to wait for it to rock up. We're going to be mocking up an intake pipe once that happens. We're also going to be using that exhaust that's just there hanging, so once the turbo gets here we can bolt all the exhaust up. Once the turbo also get here we can start building all the lines. We've got to fabricate one of these water necks. We're going to put a little AN fitting in there just like it's an S14 one. I'm going to be redoing the harness because that caught fire, so we need to redo that. Going to be jumping on an E85, so we're probably going to pull these injectors out. We're going to give them a clean and a flow test, make sure they're all good, and then we've got to change all these lines to E85 lines. Rocket cover needs changing. That's one thing Daniel said had a slight weep. The external one's okay, it's actually the ones inside that are leaking, so nice easy fit. Probably the biggest issue that we're gonna face, the gearbox. So just the way it's cut and shut, I don't know if it was built specifically for a Skyline. It sits, yeah, pretty much there. So we're gonna have to trim a bit of this metal out, and then we're gonna have to dogleg the shifter just so it sits central so I can use all the factory center console. And then we've got to take some measurements and we can go get a tail shaft made up. Fuel pressure regulators there. Now put all the harness bar back on, we can remount all this factory wiring. We're gonna leave all that. We can then find a mounting place for the Power FC. This belt needs to be changed. Apparently this loosened itself off at the track and got all frayed up, so this is where I've got this belt here. We'll swap that out. Then we can get on to mocking up some intercooler piping and stuff like that. But yeah, made some serious progress. I'm pretty excited now. Again, not too far off before this car will actually be running. We still have a lot of work, like all the fenders need a final mounting, the side skirts need final mounting, over fenders need a final mounting. These actually, as you can see there, that's rubbing, so that all still needs to be cut out, welded for the wide body. That's with a 26535 on the 9.5, so that's the exact fitment we're going to be running. Probably going to run a larger spacer on the rear just to match the larger spacer I'm going to be running on the front. Got some more stickers on the back now, so Sushi Pig, Splash, no Superstar. This side here is pretty much full. So yeah, again, if anyone's got some cool stickers that they want to run on the back window, get in touch, slide into my DMs and we'll make some shit happen. This is the bonnet I'm going to be using. I've had this one sort of lying around. Someone's dog has ate it, but nice cheap bonnet, ties into the theme with nice cheap panels for the rest of the car. I'm going to wrap this video, guys. I'm super happy with all the progress I made over this R&R, getting the car rolling in the previous video and getting the driveline in this video. So we've still got a long way to go. Like, it is very close, but there's still lots of little things we need to get finished and tidied up for the conversion and getting this car running again. Then we can get it off to a tune, get it off to a wheel alignment, and then it's pretty much ready for sliding. So this is something I'm very excited about. This is also my S14. I know a lot of you guys are probably new to the channel. I need to go over this car in a fine detail. So what I'm thinking is when I do go over this car and figure out absolutely everything that's left on it to do, I can do an introduction video, I can walk through everything that's been done to it, everything I want to do to it, because this is probably like my favorite car. This is like my show car. This is my favorite car, you know, like it's still street registered in Australia. We get a hard time for modified cars on the street, so it's probably one of the reasons why I've never finished it off. But yeah, let's finish this video with a couple of quick pans of this car, and if you guys are really interested, I'll get straight onto making a video for this as soon as I can.
Say what you wanna say, I won't go back. If you wanna hit the road, then let's go then. Let's just go and see the world and just show them what it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see it shine.